Have you ever stepped into a place and felt, almost immediately, that something had happened there? Not something loud, but something slow, quiet, and heartbreaking. A place that once overflowed with purpose, with people who came in every morning carrying hope, ambition, and dreams in their bags. Yet now all that remains is a silence so heavy it almost feels like grief. Sometimes it's the silence of a factory floor once filled with noise. Sometimes it's the silence of office doors left open but empty. Sometimes it's the silence of machines standing still, untouched, waiting for hands that will never return. But silence has a language of its own. It tells stories. Stories of meetings that never happened, ideas that died before they grew, departments that tried their best but were never heard. It tells stories of leaders who stood at the center of everything yet saw nothing. Leaders whose brilliance blinded them. Leaders who believed knowledge was enough to hold a company together. Have you ever watched someone intelligent, someone capable, someone with everything going for them, slowly destroy the very thing they built, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to lead? This is the kind of silence that swallows companies. Not the silence of machines shutting down, but the silence of people giving up. And at the heart of today's story is a man who had everything: education, exposure, opportunity, but missed the most important thing of all, the ability to lead others. A man whose employees tried to guide him, tried to warn him, tried to support him, but he could not see beyond his own certainty. This is not just the fall of a factory. It is the fall of a man who believed knowledge alone could carry him. A man whose blind spots grew until they swallowed everything in his path. And so today, we begin the story of Mr. Andrew Cole, a brilliant mind, a determined founder, and a leader who never learned how to lead. Mr. Andrew Cole's story began long before the factory ever opened. He was one of those people whose names carried weight, the kind parents pointed to with pride. Andrew studied abroad, moving through some of the most respected universities in the United States. He earned his bachelor's degree with distinction, went on to complete a master's, and eventually finished a PhD. He surrounded himself with brilliance, professors, innovators, thinkers, and absorbed knowledge like a sponge. To his community, he was a shining star, and when he returned home, he returned with purpose. Opening a manufacturing company was not just a business decision, it was a statement. Andrew wanted to prove that success didn't require leaving home forever. He wanted to create jobs, build opportunities, and show that industries could thrive where people least expected them to. With the help of a consulting firm, the company was structured professionally. Production, quality assurance, procurement, HR, finance, sales and distribution, maintenance, IT support, and a business reporting analyst to help Andrew understand performance deeper. Workers resumed with excitement. Machines roared to life. The factory took its first breath, and Andrew stood in the middle of it all, proud, certain, confident that everything he had studied had prepared him for this moment. But beneath all that confidence was a seed of danger. Andrew believed knowledge and leadership were the same thing. He believed running a structured company was as simple as being the smartest person in the room. It was a belief that would cost him everything. In the early months, Andrew's energy was inspiring. He walked around the factory with confidence, studying every machine, asking questions, adjusting processes himself. But very quickly, Confidence turned into control. Andrew believed the only part of the company that truly mattered was production. And because he believed that, he poured all his time, attention, and decisions into the production floor. He micromanaged everything: the schedule, the technicians, the output, the timings. He reviewed every production sheet personally. He insisted that no decision should be made without his approval. But what he didn't realize was this: when a leader tries to handle everything, he ends up handling nothing well. Other departments began to feel the gap. Procurement Officer Sarah waited for approvals that never came. HR needed decisions Andrew didn't think were important. QA needed audits reviewed, but he always postponed them. Finance needed to discuss costs, but Andrew told them production mattered more than budgets. IT support needed to set up proper backups and protective systems. But Andrew didn't see these things as urgent. To him, everything outside production felt like noise. He believed his education gave him the blueprint to run things perfectly. But education alone cannot replace the wisdom gained through listening. Soon the staff began to sense Andrew's blind spot, not in what he said, but in what he refused to hear. But when the factory had issues, when a machine stalled, or when output dipped, Andrew appeared instantly. Those were the meetings he valued. Those were the meetings he made time for. Those were the meetings where the real Andrew surfaced. He would walk into the room with his sleeves rolled up, walkie-talkie in hand, already irritated before the meeting even began. "Why are we not producing?" His voice would cut through the room like metal against metal. "What is wrong with that machine again? Didn't we just fix it?" Maintenance supervisors tried to explain the simple truth. Machines wear out. If you run them non-stop, they weaken. Parts will eventually need replacement. But Andrew never accepted the reality of wear and tear. "Replace what? Do you know how much that costs?" He would slam his palm on the table. "Can't you people fabricate something? Must everything be bought new?" Fabrication, to him, was the magic answer to everything. Never mind that fabricated parts didn't last. Never mind that QA had already raised concerns. Never mind that procurement had suppliers ready to deliver original components. Andrew dismissed them all. Procurement would try to suggest alternatives, better vendors, better pricing, more durable options, but he always silenced them. "No, don't waste time. I'll get somebody to fabricate it. It's cheaper. Cheap today, expensive tomorrow." But Andrew never saw past the immediate moment. These production meetings were loud, chaotic, and draining. Supervisors sat stiff, afraid to speak. Engineers exchanged quiet glances, already knowing how the meeting would end, with Andrew shouting, with Andrew blaming, with Andrew refusing to listen. Everything outside production he viewed as unimportant, unnecessary, a distraction, and so departments learned to move around his absence. But production was where he planted himself like a storm. Leadership is contagious, for better or worse. Andrew's avoidance became the company's culture. His disregard for structure became the default behavior. The COO stopped pushing for innovation. Supervisors stopped escalating problems. Managers stopped scheduling meetings that would be ignored. Tara stopped printing reports Andrew wouldn't read. People learned that speaking up was pointless. Ideas died at their birth. Initiatives were abandoned before they started. The silent culture spread like smoke, slowly, quietly, suffocating everything in its path. A company once filled with motivated professionals became a place where people simply did the minimum, not because they were lazy, but because they were defeated. Silence didn't arrive suddenly. It grew slowly from every unanswered question, every ignored suggestion, every door Andrew closed without knowing. When people don't feel valued, they don't fight. They leave. The first resignation was surprising. The second raised concerns. By the fifth, everyone knew something was wrong. Procurement left. QA specialists left. Maintenance staff left. Finance assistants left. Sales supervisors left. One by one, like lights going out in a building. And each person left for the same reasons. I can't grow here. No one listens. My career is dying. They didn't leave because the work was hard. They left because the environment was hopeless. Andrew didn't understand it. He believed they lacked patience. He believed they didn't appreciate opportunity. He believed they were abandoning him. But the truth was simpler. They were escaping a leadership vacuum that was slowly swallowing the company from within. Production continued, but everything else had collapsed. Procurement delays meant materials arrived late. QA couldn't monitor quality properly with low staff. Customer complaints increased. Finance struggled to control expenses. Maintenance was understaffed, causing machines to break down more often. It couldn't secure data or upgrade systems. HR was overwhelmed, yet Andrew still believed the problem was low production. He pushed the remaining workers harder. He demanded more output. He blamed the economy, the suppliers, the industry, everything except himself. He was the last to see what was obvious to everyone else. The company was bleeding from every side. One Monday morning, Andrew walked into the factory expecting noise. He expected movement, work, activity. Instead, he found silence. No machines running, no workers present, no departments functioning. Suppliers had stopped supplying, clients paused orders, invoices piled up unpaid. There were not enough employees to operate even one full shift. Andrew walked slowly across the silent factory floor, and for the first time, he felt the weight of everything he had ignored. He wasn't just staring at an empty factory. He was staring at the consequences of his leadership. For months, Andrew tried to resuscitate the company. He borrowed money, negotiated with suppliers, attempted to recruit new staff, cut costs, reorganize shifts. But it was too late. The company had lost its structure, its people, its balance, its rhythm. And eventually, Andrew made the painful choice to close the gates. As he locked the entrance for the last time, he wasn't thinking about the machines, or the buildings, or the money. He was thinking about every moment he failed to listen, every voice he ignored, every meeting he skipped, every warning he dismissed, every idea he brushed aside. He didn't lose the company because he wasn't smart. He lost it because he believed being smart was enough, and it wasn't. Andrew's story teaches us something essential, something every leader, every business owner, every manager, and every aspiring professional must understand. A company does not rise on intelligence alone. It rises on understanding people, understanding structure, understanding the importance of every department, every voice, every report, every warning. His story shows us how dangerous it can be when someone believes knowledge is enough to sustain a business. Because knowledge gives direction, yes, but leadership gives stability. Leadership brings people together. Leadership listens. Leadership values. Leadership learns. It teaches us that meetings are not formalities. They are moments where companies protect themselves. Every canceled meeting creates a blind spot. Every ignored report allows a problem to grow. Every unheard employee adds another crack to the foundation. Andrew's journey reminds us that departments exist for a reason. HR is not noise. Procurement is not secondary. It is not optional. Finance is not a distraction. QA is not formality. Reporting is not decoration. When leaders neglect these pillars, the entire structure weakens, slowly, quietly, and eventually completely. His story also teaches us that silence in a company does not happen naturally. It grows from being ignored. It grows when people feel useless. It grows when leaders stop listening. And once silence becomes culture, the company is already halfway gone. Maybe the most important lesson Andrew teaches us is this: people do not leave because the job is difficult. They leave because their effort doesn't matter. They leave because their expertise is dismissed. They leave because their leader stands alone and forces everyone else to stand back. Andrew's fall is not just a story about a failed factory. It is a reminder that leadership is a skill that must be learned, nurtured, and practiced. A reminder that no company survives on one man's brilliance. A reminder that the strongest businesses are built on collaboration, humility, communication, and the willingness to listen. And a reminder that ignoring the people meant to save you doesn't just cost you your company. Sometimes it costs you everything you built.